Good morning, good afternoon, and welcome to an animated and yet live action episode of Random Trek. I am your animated but yet somehow real Captain Christopher Ingle, joined as always by my also very animated and yet real, you'll see a theme here very quickly, Commander Brennan, the Mystical Mire. Brennan, how you doing?
Is it just me or is Spock look kind of creepy when he smiles? Just saying.
Oh, this is an episode we long waited to see, and now we finally get to review it. We're looking at Strange New Worlds, Season 2, Episode 7, the highly rated Those Old Scientists. This
Yes.
is the crossover of Star Trek crossovers. Brennan, how did you feel going into this one?
I mean, I love this episode. I
Mhm,
just love it. I was so excited when they announced it.
mhm,
I was very glad they pulled it off. And it's not just a comedy. There is some depth here.
mhm,
Some real character development, character moments that are actually quite touching.
mhm.
And we'll get to those in a minute.
Yeah, this is in more my opinion than anything else, but this is to me the very first true Star Trek crossover.
Hmm.
We've had appearances of people in other series, and let us not even talk about the jerk of a finale that Enterprise gave us. But I think this is the truest crossover that we have in the Star Trek canon.
Unless you count Birthright and D69.
I don't, only
Or next
because
gen, I should say, next
yeah,
gen.
yeah. We reviewed that.
We
But
did.
Bashir's appearances are so fast and so
That's true.
short.
That's
You
true.
know, it's the same way in Voyager. We saw that a couple of times. You could also say the DS9 episode with Thomas Riker. Maybe. I don't
I
think
mean,
so.
Picard season 3 had a couple of interesting ones.
I don't view that as a crossover, though.
Yeah,
This is
I
you know,
agree. It's not really a crossover.
yeah. So either way, semantics. This is a fabulous episode and directed by the man who could do no wrong in directing, except for Insurrection, Jonathan Frakes.
Hmm.
I don't blame him
And
for
we get
that.
to see the Riker maneuver a couple of times, which,
Riker, that was improvised on set.
hmm.
Oh, I love it. Let's talk. Let's get briefly into the plot, and then we'll get going here. So this episode doesn't start out in Strange New Worlds, but actually starts out in Lower Decks. We start out animated,
Yep.
and we see that uh, um, our good buddy, Brad Boimler, is going on an away mission with Mariner, Tendi, and Rutherford to look at a portal that is on a planet that they say was discovered by Pike in the original Enterprise, and Tendi corrects them and says, no, it was founded by an Orion science vessel. My great grandmother was on that. Huh, it's interesting. I'm sure that will not come back into play in this episode.
Mm-mm.
But what happens is Boimler stands against this thing and has a picture taken with a holo projector. And it somehow activates and he gets sucked into it. And on the other side of the portal, we see a fully live action Enterprise crew investigating the same time portal, and out pops Boimler, but not animated Boimler. It's
Nope.
Jack Quaid with the purple hair, the scrawniness, the Starfleet suit, which is the first time we see this suit in live action
Hmm.
and appear. And this, of course, surprises the Enterprise crew. Um, so the rest of it all takes place for the most part aboard the Enterprise. So Boimler gets up there. They realize very quickly that Boimler's from the future. And he kind of has a freak out. He meets Pike. This is awesome. He meets Spock. This is awesome. He meets Numera Una. Uh-oh. There's something about Una that he is not letting on about, but he freaks out every time he's around her. We'll get to that. But Boimler tries to follow the Temporal Prime directive, and avoid giving information about the future, but he kind of keeps messing that up and doing it over and over and over again, which irritates Pike, and you can see it.
And irritates Lon and Ensign because she knows exactly what this is.
Yeah. Yep. So while they're trying to figure out how to get Boimler home, an Orion vessel shows up. Boimler knows exactly that this is a science vessel. He knows it, but he can't tell them exactly why he knows that. They communicate with the Enterprise and kind of going, hey, what are you doing here? And the Enterprise automatically thinks that they are Orion pirates, which is a theme here. Tendi gets mad at Boimler earlier in the episode when he says they all Orion's pirates, and she feels insulted by that.
Mm.
So this is something that sticks with him. Not all Orions are pirates. Okay.
Or slave girls.
Or slave girls, yes. But what happens is the Orions, seeing the artifact on the surface, beam it up and warp away. So Boimler helps the crew of the Enterprise track down the Orions, and they meant to save face with the Orions. They trade the triticale, which is a grain, which we saw a future version of that in Trouble with Tribbles. Quadritriticale, but this is just triticale. Anyway, they agree to trade that to get the portal back. So they transport the portal down back to the planet, and right before Boimler can go through, the portal activates and Mariner pops in, and now there's no fuel to run the machine. Connie Newsom in the flesh, same hairstyle.
With
it's so amazing.
The sleeves rolled up.
Yes, it's so great. So now they have 2 time travelers to deal with, and Pike is doubly irritated. All through this episode 2, we have to talk about Spock really quick. Spock is telling jokes and smiling.
And laughing.
It's awkward. It's really awkward, really to say the least. Yeah. And Boimler is kind of freaking out about this because he loves Spock. But why is Spock doing this? He even goes to talk to Chapel and say, Chapel, why is he doing this? And Chapel basically kind of lets it spill that it's my fault. And Boimler's like, wait, you and Spock? He backtracks really fast.
Because we know where this goes.
Yeah, of course she ends up going to leave, and yeah. So, they decide to divide and conquer. Boimler and Spock are going to attempt to synthesize more of this power source, which is very difficult to do. It's a metal called, or a material called heronium, which we learn a little bit about the NX-01, that all ships back in that time period, which is about, let's just roughly say 100 years before that.
Yeah.
Okay. Were made with heronium. The holes were made with heronium. It was very common. We'll get back to heronium. Mariner, meanwhile, works with her hero, Uhura, to try to decode the runes that are on it to understand maybe the instructions or some information. So I love that Mariner tries to teach Uhura how to have fun. She doesn't take breaks. She always works. And even when she's taking a break, she's working. So unfortunately, though, Boimler and Spock fail at their attempt, nearly blow up the ship. I'm exaggerating, but that was a risk Spock talked about. So Pelia makes an appearance, and she lets Boimler know that the grain that they traded is irreplaceable, and that basically trading it will doom the planet they were sent to help, and they're going to have to relocate them. Boimler gets a conscience and decide, I'm going to steal a shuttle. I'm going to go to the Orions and explain things and see if we can get it back. If I can't get back, then I'm going to do the right thing here and help people. But Boimler and Mariner, of course, Mariner is involved. They get detained by La'an, and they have a talk with Pike. When Boimler all of a sudden realizes that there is another source of heronium on the Enterprise. See, tradition dictates that when a ship is being built, the predecessor to that ship, especially when they are of the same name, is given a small piece of the original hull as kind of that first keystone, that first piece to build in, and it's for good luck.
Which I assume did not happen with the Enterprise A, considering that the original Enterprise burned up over Genesis.
Yeah, well, I'm assuming. Well, no, they would have had the Enterprise A. They would have had the Enterprise A.
Well, the
No,
Enterprise A wouldn't have had the
wait, let me
original
let me flip
Enterprise
that.
hull.
No, it's the NX-01. Yeah. Anyway, I get your point. I do get your point. Um, I saw where you went there. I was like, wait a second. Anyway, um, but what they decide to do is they've got to find this, and they do find it, and it's in engineering. They take it and are able to synthesize what they need. However, they encounter the Orions again. And they come to an understanding when Pike admits, listen, we just want to use this to send them home. We'll even let you get credit for the discovery. And they agree to this. And it really shows for these guys, they were actually scientists. They weren't pirates,
Mm-hmm.
but that's what brought, peace between them for that moment, is that admission that, hey, not
And that
all Orions,
Tindy's
this is all I've ever wanted. And that Tindy's grandma is
great grandma's
indeed
on the ship.
on the
Yep.
ship. But they do send them back. They do successfully send them back. Um, and we find out that the reason why Boimler was so freaked out around Una is that
Mm.
he respected Una highly. Una is literally the poster girl for Starfleet recruitment. Ad Astra Aspera, the saying that she said at her trial, is on the poster for
Which,
recruitment.
I gotta say, I got a little misty-eyed at that
It was great.
because the incredible episode
Mm-hmm.
where she defended herself in the court martial,
Such great trial episodes.
because the idea that somebody was kicked out of Starfleet ends up becoming the poster child for Starfleet,
Mm-hmm.
showing kind of the evolution of understanding that happens in the Federation,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is just emotionally completes that story very well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they create peace. They send them back. They kind of communicate. There's a good cheeky line that I love by First Officer Jack Ransom.
Oh, yes.
The hottest first officer in Starfleet, which I feel like he was obligated to say, because Jerry O'Connell, who does the voice of Ransom, is married to Rebecca Ramon, who is the first officer of the
Yeah.
Enterprise. So
Yeah.
he was kind of obligated to do that, but I like it. It was cool. I caught it
Yeah.
when he said it. And then the episode ends kind of on a fun note where we see the Enterprise and everything in animation. They're all hanging out, drinking Orion Hurricanes, which are very alcoholic and will mess you up. And they quickly realize, looking at each other, that why do we look like this? What is going on? It reminds me a little bit of Absinthe in Moulin Rouge, where kind of
Yes.
like the Green Fairy, or Trip, or something. It's kind
And
of
Dr.
funny.
Mbenga gets the ultimate last line in this episode.
I love him, Benga. But yeah, that is pretty much the entire episode. So, Brennan, what are some of the things you liked about this episode?
I mean, my word, it's not just a gimmick.
Mm-hmm.
There are emotional stakes here,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is just absolutely marvelous. Lonnie Newsom and Jack Quaid are magnificent in live action.
Mm-hmm.
I love that there's a little bit of meta humor about. Aren't their jokes oddly specific? A little bit about how cheeky they are on lower decks
Mm-hmm.
and how meta that show is. I love that we start with the lower decks
Mm-hmm.
and then come to live action. That's really neat.
Yeah.
And I also like I mean, like I said, the whole arc with number one, that bit about Pike knowing what's going to happen and, and all that stuff. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that, Boimler, he gets to meet his heroes. And the old saying, never meet your heroes. Well, this
Hmm.
is kind of the idea that you meet your heroes and you discover that they're just people.
Hmm.
They're just people like you and me, you know?
Hmm.
And getting to see the everything about them. And also I like a little bit about Spock's emotional journey because if you look at these shows and in Strange New Worlds, particularly in season one, Spock does not really have the sense of humor. If you go to the original Star Trek series, Spock clearly does have a sense of humor, even if he doesn't necessarily laugh out loud.
Hmm.
This episode, I think, shows us the transition of the character. And I think by the time the original series rolls around, I think his emotional understanding is somewhat improved than what it was in Strange New Worlds. And I think that you could argue that it's because of the whole situation with Nurse Chapel.
Hmm.
It's why that change happens. I also love that there's the scene with Boimler in the bar, and in typical Boimler fashion, the attractive ladies are hanging around Boimler. Nurse Chapel and Erica Ortegas. It just made me laugh because it's like Boimler is always surrounded by the attractive ladies, and he is always so oblivious to it, which I think is just utterly hilarious.
Hmm.
But I really think that this episode gave us the humor we wanted, the emotional pathos we wanted. It really has it all. And I would argue that this might be the best episode of Strange New Worlds.
Wow.
It's a show full of great episodes.
Ah, wow.
I mean, Subspace Rhapsody is
Hmm.
like classic. So I don't know, hard to say.
Yeah, I
It's
love.
really good, really good.
I was a really big fan of the quippiness that was going on. And that's something I love in Lower Decks in general is how well they play off of each other. Like when they're in the shuttle and they're talking about working the consoles and it's not quite working. What are you gonna do? Somebody Q? Don't talk about Q. They haven't met him yet. I love that.
But they have that Trelane thing.
Yeah, they got that Trelane thing. That's great. And then when Boimler when he's in the ready room and he gets up on the saddle and he just goes Riker.
Yep.
So I have to tell the story to this because I loved how Jonathan Frakes did it.
Mhm.
They were not this they he it was not written that he does that. He just gets up there. Which was going to be awkward enough. That's what they wanted. But while on set, uh, um, Boimler, so he wanted to kind of bust uh bust Frakes's chops just a little bit.
Mhm.
So Jack Quaid off camera looks at him and he knew something was going to happen and they're filming and he gets up there and he just goes Riker and Frakes he was holding his mouth laughing because he loved it so much and he ended up almost ruining the take.
Yeah.
Luckily the sound didn't
Yeah.
catch him. But he's like he asked him when the take was over and he said too much. He's like no, that stays. And I love that.
Yeah.
Frakes as a director gives his actors that opportunity. And Frakes has actually directed quite a few Lower Decks episodes. So he knows the material, he knows the characters. And he
Lower
lets
Decks or
them
Strange New Worlds.
he's done both. He has done
Ugh,
both.
eh.
He's done both. But he understands it. He gets it. He knows it. So he knew how to play that humor. And this is a humorous episode.
Very much.
No doubt this is a humorous episode, which is kind of funny because we get a serious episode, and then we get the penultimate episode, which was the musical episode.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm not used to seeing, and I like this, but I'm not used to seeing so much levity so close together in a serious Star Trek
And also
episodes.
that it's also it's an episode that, even though it's very funny,
Mhm.
has a lot of emotional moments too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely great. I love it. This was just so enjoyable to see again. I loved it the first time they did it.
Hmm.
And the transition from animated to live action, making Boimler and Mariner look just not goofy. I get it now. When in just animated form, you're like, how does this look in real life? You don't know. It's a little difficult to gauge. They did it here.
So
Crisply. Oh, go
I'm
ahead.
also of the opinion that Noel Wells and Eugene Cordero should have played their characters in live action.
I would have loved to seen that, but I think it was a matter of the money. I mean, honestly, you have a budget,
Yeah.
so they probably couldn't afford to get all of them on, but this made sense to me.
Hmm.
They recorded this be right before they were working on recording Lower Decks, the third season. Because in the third season, when they have the Tuvix episode, they reference this. That thing we don't get to talk about. They reference this.
Hmm.
So it's right along in this timeline with them, and I enjoy it so much.
And
Um,
they showed this episode at Comic-Con last year.
mhm,
Pretty good place to show
absolutely,
it, I think.
yeah. Um, just all around, this is so much fun. We get to see
Hmm.
our main characters in Lower Decks. That's another thing I enjoy. The Lower Deckers don't take away from the Enterprise crew. They let them build their story. Spock is still building his story. Chapel is building hers. We even get more of La'an and what she's dealing with and getting
Hmm.
back from that. All of this is really cool that it's a
And
perfect blending and meshing.
the completion of number one's arc with all that.
Hmm. Yeah. Um,
I
this
mean,
is, oh, go ahead.
Stranger World is such a good show. It
It
really
really
is.
is. I love the reference of the sea lot too.
Hmm.
You talk to him about his sea lot? Why are you always talking about the sea lot?
And I love that uh, Mariner is making passes at Spock.
Spock is hot. That's what I love it. They're having the meeting. They're having a meeting trying to figure out what to do, and Boimler and Mariner are just kind of having their own side post conversation. Is that Spock hot? Yeah, I'm like, I love. It's just so much fun.
Yeah,
This is a joy. This is
it is.
comedy that works so well, and comedy in an hour-long show is hard and rare.
Mhm.
So this is really great, and I enjoy that the writers and the creative minds in both writer rooms were able to make this work.
And I
Uh,
wonder if in Lower Decks we'll get another crossover, this time doing the same thing in
you've
reverse.
been saying this, and I get it. I don't know if it's going
I
to
have
happen.
been saying it, it's
I
true.
would have think they would have announced it at Comic-Con, but then again, maybe
But then
not.
again, Lower Decks doesn't come out till October. Well, okay, it's right around the
We'll
corner.
have Star Trek Day coming up in September, right?
That's true.
So that
Let's
may
just
may
say I'm
change.
crossing my fingers that we might get
Hmm.
another fun crossover.
Yeah. Yeah, this was
Particularly
definitely,
for Lower Decks' last season.
yeah, and there's no slow spots. There's no that shouldn't be in here. No, everything fits in this
Hmm.
puzzle. I might agree with you if not that I have a penchant for musicals. I
Well,
love the
yeah, I mean,
musicals
Subspace
so much.
Rhapsody is like if Once More with Feelings is
Mhm.
the best episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and Subspace Rhapsody is the best episode of Strange New Worlds.
Mhm. Yep. Yeah, this is just again, it's absolute required viewing. I said that this is absolute required viewing, not because it has lasting implications. It has some, but nothing that really is like crucial or pivotal. It's not like they're right now, as of now, it's not like they're coming back. It's not, it's just a fun episode. We get some character development, which is fine, but
Hmm.
they take their time, and I like that. they enjoy this. This
Yeah,
is this is absolute viewing recommendation from me.
absolutely. Absolutely.
But we have received some sad news over the last couple of days that a big member of the Star Trek family unfortunately has passed away. And this is not a character most people think about, not an actress most people think about.
Mhm.
However, uh, I always remember this character, especially in the later seasons.
Yes.
I really liked her. And she also was on the Enterprise during First Contact.
Mm-hmm.
Seen
Mm-hmm.
that, and we said a lot of things from her. So Patty Yasutake, who played uh, um, Nurse Ogawa in
Alyssa
the
Ogawa.
Alyssa Ogawa in Next Generation, sadly has passed away.
Yeah.
Um, I am genuinely sad because like these and actually I remember her playing a bigger part in Lower Decks, the episode Lower Decks in
Yeah, that's
TNG.
right. That's right.
Yeah,
Yes.
because
Yes.
she's an ensign. She does get promoted eventually, but she's an ensign. By the
Yeah.
time First Contact came, she was a junior lieutenant. Um,
As she,
but
as she deserved to be.
and she is the reason that the Enterprise was saved during the evolution virus.
Yes. Yes.
She
Genesis.
is the reason, and I love that.
Yes.
But yeah, sad to see a big name. And you know what? That's the thing. She's never talked about. She isn't.
Which is unfortunate because she's so great.
I put her. We were talking off air. I put her up there with Miles O'Brien. Miles got to go on and have a full stint on another show. She
Yeah.
didn't. Um, but I enjoy her. Her bedside manner as a character was really great. Always had a smile. Never felt pointless. And in one alternate universe, was actually a doctor.
Yes. Yes,
On the
indeed she was.
was it the Wharf one? I think it was the one of the
One of the
schisms,
work
or
timelines,
no,
yeah, I think.
yeah, one of them I think is what it was. But yeah, rest in peace, Patty, and
Yeah. I
I
mean
definitely gonna watch some TNG.
Ogawa was in a lot of episodes. She really was.
Hmm. Let's see really quick. I just want kind of a
She,
ballpark
she
number.
sort of showed up quite a few times.
You know what? It's not as much as you think, but it's far more than any reoccurring guest. She was on TNG for 16 episodes and was in two movies, and I'm going to assume that it's the first two. That's my assumption is the
Yes,
first two.
that is correct.
I saw her in a bigger role for First Contact when she was trying to help Crusher get everybody out. But I think she was in Generations. I can't remember. It's been a long
I
time.
believe she was, yes.
Yes. But again, warp speed.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, just one of those people that was just a reliable side character.
All the time.
Yeah.
Like I said, I liked her.
Oh yeah.
But yes, sadness around.
Yeah.
And as I was talking to our my brother, our friend Aaron Dye, uh, I told him, and he was like, "Yeah, unfortunately, we are of the age now where we're gonna see this more than we would like."
Unfortunately. Yeah.
It is. It's hard to like. Here's the kicker. When you think about when TNG was live, right?
Hmm.
That was already 20 roughly 20 years, 20 to 25 years after. We're already past that point with TNG. So
Yeah.
the people who were young and thriving, they are now reaching how the TOS cast was regarded.
Hmm.
So it's very sad. But
Yeah.
we get to enjoy watching these episodes again.
Yeah. And
So
in that way, they never die. They really don't.
you're right. No, I love that idea.
Yep.
All
Yep.
right. So next week we are back to TOS, the original series.
Or these old scientists.
These old scientists. Yes. So let's hit the
Well,
randomizer.
randomizer was good to us this week, so let's see what it does for next week.
Yeah, no. All right. So here we go. All right.
Oh
Season
boy.
2, episode 3, The Changeling, the one with Nomad.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I haven't seen that one. I have not seen that one.
I have. It's
I know
interesting.
of it. I've heard reference to it numerous times with Nomad, but I've never actually watched it. So that'll be a good watch. Okay.
Indeed.
All
The
right.
Changeling.
Yes.
Wait, did you say episode 3 or episode 8?
Says 3, but that could just be production order.
It's under 8 in the season lineup.
Let me see real fast.
Let's see,
I can correct myself. Oh, okay. It was 8 in production order. In
Mhm.
broadcast, it was 3.
Okay, we'll go with the broadcast order.
Okay, and that's what I've been doing.
Mm-hmm.
But either way, it's season 2's episode, The Changeling. This is a
Yes.
lot of fun. Lot
Let's
of
do
fun.
that.
The inspiration, I believe, for the motion picture.
It's true.
We'll see where we go with that. All right, but Brennan, wow, this one feels like it went fast. We've been discussing this for a good amount of time. So, where do the people find you?
You can find me on X at Brennan Mystical, Instagram and Threads at Brennan Blue. You can follow me on YouTube, that page turned as they were not, and on Apple and Spotify.
You can find me on Twitch and Twitter at Ingle1984. And tomorrow, I will be on our good friend Ryan Permison. Allowed me onto his podcast last week talking about
Yep.
fandoms, and I talked about Star Trek and why I love it so much.
Yes.
So please check that out on the And I Quote channel. But also tomorrow, I have been invited by the same channel to come do the 40th anniversary watch along of Star Trek 3, which
Yes.
Ryan loves and I don't exactly like,
I
if
have
you
had
remember.
enough of you.
So I will be doing a watch along of that. Again, he does those live, so please check out that channel. Support him. I love the work that he does, but it's great to be invited. Yeah. So as always, we end every episode. Kapla! And live long and prosper.
Peace and long life.